So I'm gonna go over it today. Um, so here is what we saw going into Tuesday. So we had multiple PSPs. We not really multiple. We had a PSP at the body high for ES, which was last Thursday. In the PSP for NQ previous Wednesday. So we were setting up just to be bearish and have a little sell off. We closed below this gap, pretty clear that we need to sell off. And we also had no, we didn't have any. We don't have any obviously monthly or anything just yet, but we had multiple weeklies pointing lower. So we had a weekly right here. So we had a weekly right here in the QTS, right, and then another weekly with the Dow, and then we had one weekly here bullish weekly, which held us still for Monday, and just pretty much held us still up until what it looks like should have expanded today. And so I wanted it to see expansion today, obviously, after what I just saw. So here was 8 o'clock. So we pretty much hit true week. You're ready to expand. Dow's running higher, just do its last sweep, and Q and ES need to expand. So then we see our start of the expansion. First of all, as you can see, we had this is no daily. Well, we had like a daily with the Dow because it swept all this liquidity. Which the best part of that is that we don't have to come back for ES and Q up here, which is I really like to see that. So then here we pretty much had 9:15 and then 9:30. We had a huge sell-off, and then after that we obviously continued the rest of the day lower. Now, in regards to my trade today, so let's see what would be the perfect trade using orb entry. Go ahead and remove all the drawings, remove the indicators. So bam, high, 940 right there. So here's the low. So my opinion, the perfect entry would be in between. So if you take a look at this right here, so NQ held lower in the range while ES ran up and created the 90-minute prior to the drop. So as you can see, here's 935. We dipped back up. Well, we dipped back up and we created the 90, and we had the huge sell-off. So I'm gonna show you guys my trade for today, which is go ahead and open that up. So unfortunately, my entry was quite retarded. So there was a pullback, right? So we pulled down, and then I thought we were just gonna have a huge sell-off because pretty much lower SMT. I didn't really expect us to create a 90. And then I also it was a bit emotional, to be honest, for an entry because I didn't wait for that pullback. So I entered pretty much in this candle closed, and I saw a chop on the 15-second, and I was like, all right, we're gonna chop, and then just run lower. And obviously, we chop, ran higher and slammed me. So 507, and that's second red day in a row. Honestly, today's issue was simply just not waiting for the full pullback. And if I waited for the full range to be created, and I used my own strategy, here would be the close below, here would be the pullback. This pullback did nothing, right? If I entered on this pullback, my stop loss would have to be at the previous wick. If I put it to previous wick, it wouldn't be hit, right? And 3 are obviously going to get hit. Or if I put it to, or if I entered over here on the 90-minute, which was the smarter option, and right here the PSP, then obviously on this entry, you can definitely hold it all the way to the 4-hour lows. So this is an example where like my higher time frame draw was already there and prepared. So if you look at the 4-hour lows, my draw was these lows right there. But the higher time frame was definitely the daily cycle and the gap right here. So if we take that gap, that provides us with obviously stop loss at that wick. That would give us 8RR. And after all the expansion for today, we would definitely be at the gap. So 8RR, 8.5, which is 4K, 4 bands risking 500. So it happens. The big takeaway of today is just waiting for the full pullback into the range. So it's still August, so you can expect more deeper retracements into the range than you would typically see on a month-to-month basis. So in this case, that was pretty much the issue. Also, we didn't really have a clear SSMT in the AM session yet for me to go off of up until this one was created. So now after this SSMT was created at 10:05, this was one of those examples where Dow's running, so your entry would be at 10:20 around that time, which I mentioned a lot when trading Orb. And if you take literally 10:20, it would be right here, which is the perfect entry in this gap. See that perfect entry in the gap? Stop loss right here, and it would just pay you however much you want. So I'm happy to see that we had a clean pull. It was just one of those days where you had to wait for the retracement to fully finish. But yeah, so happy that my analysis was right. I pretty much had spot on the analysis in terms of the higher time frame, but emotionally, on that 1 minute that I entered on, I was on the 5 minute. I saw it closing lower, and I was like, okay, look, if we have, because we had a PSP right over here on ES. So once we had this green PSP right here, and I saw us close lower and then the Q, and I was like, okay, wait, we might just rip through. But the whole point was, the logic in this was it's a pullback up, right? So then it shouldn't go below this one on the S, but it can go below it on the Q. So then it went below it on the Q, didn't go below it on the S. I didn't really catch that one right there. I could have just waited. Anyway, so I took this one as a bearish take. So you see this one didn't close above it. So then the PSP was in the wrong direction that I expected it. But the perfect entry for today, in my opinion, is obviously 10:20 is amazing because you have to wait for the full retracement for today. But 9:43 is spot on, in my opinion, because of the PSP. So 1 minute PSP along with halfway of the range. And that pretty much lines you up perfectly. And then since it's PSP, you can put same candle high. And there's your 3RR that are guaranteed. And if you're going to hold it, which you don't get stopped out up there, it gets really close, but it doesn't stop you out because this high was the 90-minute cycle, and then this was a failure swing. That's why it got protected. But if you did drag this one all the way down to that low, you would be at about 4.5 bands or 11 to 12 RR, so that's pretty good. So anyway, I'm moving on to tomorrow, so we'll see what tomorrow is. But we have FOMC minutes tomorrow, which isn't that strong of a news event, but I'm expecting us hopefully to run a bit lower. I want Dow to get into this gap, but at the same time, as much as I'm hoping that it runs lower, we don't really have anything below these lows except for this swing low, but that swing low cleared up pretty nicely. So we'll see. We don't have any PSP on the weekly. We don't really have anything on the weekly. So we'll see how it goes. That's it. And pretty much I had 2 L's in a row. So if I get 2 more L's this week, then the next 2 L's in a row. If I get next 2 L's in a row, then obviously loss of the funded. But if I get one green, like if I get a green tomorrow, then I'm up. I'm up like 1K of total P&L, so that's not bad. Or if tomorrow's L, then after that we're going to be back to break even at the start of the week. So we're chilling, and I'll see you guys tomorrow with whatever happens. Adios.